Welcome back to Wrong Sports. And the 2007 season in college football might be one of the craziest seasons in the last 2 decades. I have done about a dozen videos on how the year was won. You can check those out in the playlist to the side. But 2007 is the one that everyone requests. And if you don't remember 2007, it almost gave us Missouri versus West Virginia in the national championship game. We also could have gotten South Florida in the national championship game too. But in the end, none of that happened. And it was probably because of all the crazy games and upsets that happened this year. I have a list about the top 10 teams that will want to remember 2007. You can check that out to the side. Plus, I have an exclusive video on my Patreon right now. You can check it out in the link below. That video is all about the 9 closest teams in 2007. Teams that were so close to either a national championship, conference championship, breakout season. Again, you can check that out exclusively on my Patreon. Link in the description below. But this next list will cover some of the teams that will want to remember this wacky season, whether it's because they had a title, they had an upset, or a new addition. But before I get into this list of teams that will want to remember the year of 2007, make sure as always you are subscribed to the channel below if you aren't already. Ring the bell so you get updates on brand new videos that I will be dropping, or so you can get updates on all the other 2007 videos that I will be dropping soon. Of course, you can help out my channel, and please do that on my Patreon. Link is in the description below. You can also check out my podcast. Link is down in the description below as well. Please like and share this channel with other college football fans. I'm going to start it off with a team that has done a lot in the last decade plus. That is UCF, and I talk a lot about USF in another video about this year, but the team of Central Florida had their first big season at the FBS level in 2007. And there are so many reasons for University of Central Florida fans to not forget 2007. And one of the biggest ones is that the Bounce House, as it is now called, opened in 2007. It was originally called Bright House Network Stadium, and it was UCF's first official stadium. They were playing at the Citrus Bowl for the last couple of years, and they christened this new stadium in their second game as they played top 10 team Texas and almost beat them. They came back from a 10-point deficit. They had a lead late in the game but lost by 3, but they would follow that up by winning their next 2 home games and actually started the season 3-1. They beat NC State in their first game on the road. And they would hit 2 speed bumps in October, so they were now at 3-3, but that would give them the kick in the butt they needed because UCF went on a 7-game winning streak to end their season and be 10-3, win their first conference title by winning Conference USA. The winning season, a conference title, and bowl invite were all big pluses, but another great thing that happened this season, and the reason why they won 10 games, was because of their best player. That would be their running back Kevin Smith, as he went on an absolute tear this season. He ran for 2,567 yards, 29 touchdowns. He was only 62 yards away from Barry Sanders' single-season rushing record. Smith would get Heisman votes, but he wouldn't win the Heisman like Barry Sanders did. And he also wasn't in the top 5, which he probably should have been just because of how many yards this guy had and how many touchdowns he had. And I just wanted to mention Kevin Smith because this season is pretty epic and it doesn't get mentioned too much. And it was a part of UCF's first really great season. The next team that will want to remember 2007 is the Florida Atlantic Owls. This is because they went 8-5 this year, and they also won their first conference title in just their 7th year of existence. It was also a great coming out party for Howard Schnellenberger, who most football fans had not seen since his disastrous lone season at Oklahoma in 1995. But Howard came to FAU in 1998 as a fundraiser for the school and also for their future football team, but then he would become their new head football coach in 2001 and lead them from the FCS to the FBS only a few years later after starting the program. 2007 was only their 3rd year of a full season in FBS, and they would also be able to get a home game versus a Big Ten team in Minnesota, and they beat them. But the biggest thing about this season, and the reason why they want to remember it, is because they won the Conference USA title, and they got their first ever bowl game and bowl win Coming up next is Illinois, the Fighting Illini. This team made it to the Rose Bowl for the first time in over 20 years. They also beat the number one team in the country in Ohio State in a shocking upset. Along with that, the Illini also beat Penn State and Wisconsin, which they rarely, if ever, did. Their quarterback, Juice Williams, and their running back, Rashard Mendenhall, would become the biggest stars of their team. Now, I say this will be a team that will be remembered because Illinois has not been this good since this year, so I am sure many Illini fans on and off campus will be able to tell you something good from the 2007 football season. The team that everyone wanted to stay up late to watch this year, it's the 2007 Hawaii Warriors team. They had a high-powered offense led by Colt Brennan and their coach June Jones, who would perfect the run and shoot this year to epic results. Hawaii would go 12-0 for the first time ever. They beat Boise State late in the season to solidify their WAC title. They also earned the at-large bid for a lucrative BCS bowl game. Hawaii put up amazing numbers this season as they had 6,351 yards of total offense, with over 5,400 of that coming from the passing side, as Colt Brennan would throw for 38 touchdowns, and he would also get the record for the most touchdown passes in an NCAA career, as well as be in the top 10 in total passing yards as well for a career. Hawaii would also have 3 wide receivers with over 1,000 yards. Just so many awesome stats and awesome things to remember this team by. Unfortunately, they couldn't win their bowl game as they played a very, very good Georgia team. So unfortunately, they couldn't get that undefeated season, but the 2007 Hawaii football season is a season everyone will remember. I'm going to put Stanford on this list next because along with the huge win over USC, the hiring of Jim Harbaugh is why Stanford made this list. Stanford was coming off of a brutal couple of years, finishing near the bottom of the Pac-10, but then Harbaugh would come in and he started pretty bad as they were 1-3, only beating San Jose State, and in the 3 losses, they were blown out by other Pac-10 teams. So it was no shock that when they were put up against USC, they were a huge 40-point underdog. But somehow, with a backup quarterback, they managed to win. Along with that, they also beat their biggest rival in the Cal Bears at the end of the season and gave the Cal offense their worst performance of the season too. So just another pat on the back for Stanford. So even though the team finished with a 4-7 record, the groundwork was laid for Stanford for the next couple of years as they would finish 5-7 the next year before an 8-win season in 2009 and then a fantastic 2010 season where they went 12-1. They went to the Orange Bowl. They had Andrew Luck. They were just awesome. So this season will be remembered not just because of the USC upset, but also because it put Harbaugh on the map as a coach that could turn around a program. I'm going to the FCS for my next school. It's Appalachian State. This wasn't just about the groundbreaking win over Michigan, but it was also due to the fact that this team won the FCS national title for the 3rd year in a row. The Mountaineers would lose 2 games in the conference after that Michigan win, so they needed to win their last 4 regular season games just to co-win the Southern Conference, even though if there was a tiebreaker needed, they would have lost the tiebreaker. So technically, they really didn't win that conference. They co-won it. But anyway, they would get 3 home games in the FCS playoffs, which made their run to the national title a little bit easier. And this season will be remembered for the Michigan win, but also this was the final year of their FCS dynasty, as North Dakota State would take over that mantle a few years later and has pretty much dominated the FCS ever since. Going to the Big East for Pittsburgh, and even though the Pitt Panthers wouldn't make a bowl game this year, this team will be remembered for the 13-9 win over rival West Virginia. The win would mess up their top rival's chance at a national title, and it may have also opened the door for Pitt, which got a lot better after the season. That might have been because at the Pitt-West Virginia game this year, West Virginia had a few recruits on the sidelines, and due to the big Pitt win, it might have swung a few commitments to Pitt. Not saying all those recruits that were there were a big reason for the 9 and 10 win seasons that would follow, but the win certainly helped this team look a lot better. It would also help Dave Weinstead keep his job a little bit longer too, as he had 2 mediocre seasons in 2005 and 2006, and the 2007 season was going to be another losing season. But then after that West Virginia win, it really helped fans forget about all the badness. Oregon State is up next, and the Beavers in 2007 were known to be spoilers before this season as they upset USC the previous year, giving USC their only loss that year. Oregon State started 2-3, but then finished the season 7-1 and would beat a top 5 team in Cal and start their downfall that season. They would also come back in their season finale versus Oregon, as Oregon State tied it up late and won it in overtime, and that win meant that Oregon State was going to finish second in the Pac-10 ahead of Oregon. So just another reason why 2007 is a season for Oregon State to remember. We're going down to the SEC for this next team, as Kentucky, they got a lot of press, more than they normally did this year for their football team at least, and it was because of their big win over number 1 LSU, but this team also got another big win over in-state rival Louisville earlier in the season, who were a top 10 team when Kentucky beat them. They had a very experienced team with quarterback Andre Woodson, who had set a record for most passing attempts without an interception, and along with him, they also had senior wide receivers Keenan Burton, Stevie Johnson, and Raphael Little to throw to, so that helped him set that record and helped them get that big win over LSU. Along with that, the Wildcats got to their highest ranking in quite a while, as they got to number 8, and they did that twice. But along with that LSU win, another great game that is usually talked about is the game versus Tennessee, who needed to beat Kentucky to make it to the SEC title game. Kentucky got behind early, but then caught up, outscoring Tennessee 24-7 in the second half, and this game got to 4 overtimes before Kentucky was not able to complete a 2-point conversion and would lose to Tennessee. But the slugfest that they had with Tennessee is a game that you will want to watch from the 2007 season. I'm not going to mention it in my top 10 games, so I want to mention it now. That's why. And finally, a team that will not want to forget the 2007 football season, and it's only because this team was really bad after that. They've gotten a lot better since. That would be Kansas. Did anyone remember the last time Kansas was as good as they were in 2007? Well, not really, since the last time Kansas had a 10-win season, you have to go all the way back to 1995. And before that, you have to go all the way back to 1965 when they won 9 games. So this team wasn't known for their winning on the field. So when Kansas started 4-0 and were scoring over 50 points per game, not many people were talking. That would change, though, after they beat K-State on the road for the first time in over 2 decades and would be ranked for the first time in quite a while. They were one of the teams that benefited from the chaos this year as they climbed up the rankings through October, as they started unranked, and then by the start of November, they were ranked 8th. They would hand Nebraska a terrible loss too, and when they beat Iowa State and were 11-0 for the first time ever, they got to number 2 in the rankings. Again, another first-time thing ever for them. That would set them up for the game versus Missouri in the Border War, which they lost, which got them so close to a matchup versus Oklahoma and a shot at the national title. But the ride that Kansas and their fans were on this year won't be forgotten. Again, they've gotten a whole lot better in the last couple of years under Lance Leopold, so that's good for them. But anyway, tell me another team that you can think of will not want to forget the 2007 college football season. Obviously, LSU, I'm not going to put them on this list. They were the national champions this year, but there are other teams, I'm sure. So tell me in the comments below. Again, if you aren't already, please subscribe to the channel. Ring the bell so you get updates on more videos that I will be dropping soon. And of course, like and share this video with other college football fans.